It's time to ignite your soul and unlock your full potential. Join us on Beneath the Helmet, the podcast exploring firefighters' health and wellness. Hosted by retired Fire Chief Arjuna George, our podcast is the perfect place to start your journey towards becoming the best version of yourself. So come on, let's join the conversation and find out what sets your soul on fire.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Another great episode. This is episode number 44, season 2, Beneath the Helmet. Just a big shout out to everyone who's been following along in this journey in season 2. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, definitely make sure you give that a check. The link will be down in the show notes as well. Great group, lots of questions, lots of sharing, all like-minded people. So check it out. So today I get a chance to dive into a conversation with someone who I've known for several years now, who's been an ambassador for taking care of firefighter well-being. Most importantly, his efforts through the Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation. He's been an integral part of that. I don't think there's a conversation that I've ever had with him that never went into his work or the great work of the Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation. So today I got a chance to sit down with recently retired 3 times, Wayne Jasper. So Wayne is a very humble guy, and he's there to spread the message. We have some great tips on retiring from the fire service and the challenges and the struggles behind that. But also we get to highlight his tracking system that he developed, which will also be down in the show notes as well. And that tracking system allows firefighters from all across the world to utilize and to track their own traumatic calls. Every call we go to is different for every single person. So one call might affect one person and it might not affect the others, vice versa. So this is a real nice confidential way to document your traumatic history. So if the time ever does come where you need to make a claim or you need some further support, you have a well-documented traumatic history through the fire service. And those things could be very small, and over time they add up. So sit back, relax, make sure you download the form or connect with Wayne himself. He's free to chat and share his wisdom. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. And until next time, stay well. All right, welcome back, everyone. Another amazing episode of Beneath the Helmet. Today, I got a friend of mine that I've known for probably a good couple of decades in the fire service, and met through different avenues and different aspects of the fire world, through conferences, through the fire chiefs, through the Canadian Fallen Firefighters. Pretty amazing guy, an ambassador to the fire service for sure. So today I got a chance to sit down and have a great conversation with Wayne Jasper. So welcome to the podcast, Wayne.
Thanks a lot, Chief. Looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
Been following your previous podcasts, and it seems like you've had a pretty good repertoire of people on board. So
It's
nice to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's been a blessing to have conversations with these people that are all over the world, honestly, from Australia to US to Canada. Yeah, it's I always say that I thought I had a good connection base in the fire service when I was the fire chief, but it seems to have 10x'd due to the podcast and my book and stuff like that. So it's nice to connect with people and stay connected with people.
It's amazing, how connected the fire service is all around the world. And,
Sure is.
you never really expect that when you first start. Yeah, it just keeps growing.
For sure. That's one of the benefits of the fire service, for sure. No matter where you go, you're part of it.
Definitely.
So, Chief, tell us a little bit about your background, your story, and kind of what brought you to where you are today.
Well, I think I started out in the fire service as a volunteer. One of the Gulf Islands, and did a couple of years there, and then moved away and became a career firefighter with CFB Esquimalt Fire Rescue in Victoria. Did 30 years there, retired, thought I retired, and moved to the Okanagan, and very quickly got recruited back on board again there, and continued doing service there. So and during that time frame, come across many different things, and being part of the Canadian Fallen Firefighters Foundation was one a very amazing thing. I was very honored to be a part of that for so many years, and right from almost the very beginning, and probably one of the few that's been at every single ceremony since the inception took place in 2004. So it's quite honored to have done that, and watched it go from a ceremony organized on Parliament Hill to finally being able to build our own memorial in Ottawa, and the ceremony's been held there ever since it was dedicated some years ago. So it's been quite a growth process with that as well.
Yeah, I had the honor to go to the Capitol and see that monument and be part of that march and the ceremony, and yeah, life-changing moment for sure. And just seeing all those names on that wall and the families involved, and yeah, it was a very somber but also some pride in there as well about who we are as the fire service. So
Yeah, it is, and it really it really gets you when you look at the wall and you see names and that's it really wakes you up to possibilities of what's out there, and yet we continue to carry on, and it doesn't slow us down at all.
Yeah.
Maybe makes us more alert, but it doesn't slow us down. So that's a good thing.
I'm assuming that kind of wore on you though. That's that doing that job of
Yeah,
notifying people,
you know,
line of duty.
I finally had to step back from it a little bit, because it did take, it started to take quite a bit out of me. I was the LODD committee chairman for, I think, almost 12 years, and which meant every single application that came in went through me. So I had to, review them and then go through our committee, and, we made our decisions and respond to the families and let them know whether it was approved or not. And in most cases it was. Very, very few ever came in that weren't approved, but those were the hard ones. We got the odd one that came in, which required, more information before we were able to validate it. And, but in the majority they did. And, and then to meet those families in Ottawa when they finally came to the ceremonies was something else. And just to see how thankful and grateful that they were to be a part of it, to see their family member's name on the wall, and to feel, to feel what they're feeling as they're doing it. And, it's so much nicer now that we do have a memorial, and we have them do the rubbings of the names on the wall and it's something they can always take away, because many of them may only be there at that one time. It's not always that easy to get across the country here. So, it's maybe a little different for people that are closer there, but, when you're on the West Coast or up in Yukon or territories, any of the other territories, it's a long challenge to be able to get there. So, if they make it that one time, that's good. If they can make it again, well, even better. But it's nice to be able to provide for them that opportunity to be there for the dedication and the reading of their name.
Sure. Very powerful moment. Do you think in the Canadian Fire Service we're increasing our line of duties or decreasing?
I think as everything grows, it does increase. We're seeing more now because we have more cancers added to the presumptive list. And so, when there was only a few initially, it only covered those. And now as we're expanding our lists of cancers that are presumptive and other illnesses, mental health related ones as well, it now opens up the door for people to get recognized as a line of duty death, where originally that may not have been the case. We did a lot of research at the beginning to get as many names as we could on there that were historical ones, and we're not seeing as many historical applications coming in anymore. Every now and then, a department may be doing some renovations or something, and they find an old newspaper article and they go, "Hey, we did." It's long past anybody that, or long before anybody that's serving there now, so they're not aware of it. So the occasional time we do get a historical application that still comes in, and it's nice to see that those names get recognized as well. Makes it a little difficult for finding families and that, but at least the name goes on there, and it's posted on the internet as well.
Yeah.
one thing that's the CFFF has done very well in keeping all the names listed on their website. There's a database so people can search by their department name or family name to find if there is a fallen firefighter in their family history.
Beautiful. Just for clarification, does death by suicide go on the line of duty? How does that work?
It is covered now in some, as long as it was attributed to post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a little bit tighter scrutiny to it, but there are some that have been covered.
Okay. Interesting. What's the future for Canadian fallen firefighters? Anything you want to share? I know you're kind of retired from that a bit, but anything you want to share?
I think it'll proceed the way it goes. It's, over the past couple of years, it's changed a little bit with the introduction of the Memorial Responders Grant Program, which is now, doing a lot of the verification of the names and everything. So that makes it a little easier, but the future's there and it will always be there. The ceremony, the CFFF is responsible for holding that ceremony in perpetuity until things change of some sort, which I don't see changing. Something that the board members and all those involved look forward to every year. It's is putting that ceremony on, and it's there's always something that changes every year, but it's been a very streamlined process at this point, and I don't see a whole lot of changes coming down the road with how that happens. We originally were very, very tight in our budget from the foundation because we got no support from the federal government or anything like that and putting this on. So it was, very, very financially restrictive as to how many people were invited to the ceremony every year. And it was usually only those that were within the past several years that had passed in the line of duty. Historical ones were simply read out, but now it's at that point where they're all invited to present. Medallions are presented to every name that's added now, as opposed to just the live fire ones. So it's growing that way. And, financial support is always growing as well. So it helps us fund everything as well. So we have a lot of different things that go on throughout the year in various different locations, golf tournaments to people are doing charitable runs, some poker runs with vehicles in places that are fundraisers for it. Yeah, you name it. If there's a way to do it they've figured it out how to raise some funds for it. And, dinners in restaurants that firefighters come in and be the waiters and so on. So it's so many different things that helps. And people might think it's only a few $100s or, a few $1,000s here and there, but you start adding it all up, it goes a very long way to providing a ceremony and not just that, but offering the support. The foundation's main goal is to honor, remember, and support the families as well. So we offer scholarships to the families, their children, and originally it was just children of those that died in the line of duty. But we found that there was some, occasionally there was a younger firefighter with a spouse that really was going to be looking for help as well. So we opened it up to be able to provide education or scholarships for spousal or families as well. So, that's, is a good thing. So there's a lot of support that goes on, not just on that weekend of the ceremony, it goes on year round.
That's great. Such an important, how long has the Canadian Fallen Firefighters been around? You said since
2004 was the very first ceremony. Yeah. So it started basically was founded about a year before that and worked towards that. For the first number of years, the ceremony was held on Parliament Hill, and until we were able to get our own land and have our memorial built there. Belongs to the Ottawa Capital Commission is where it's all managed through that. But that's where the land was provided, and we've grown ever since.
All in all, pretty new organization, really, like 25 years old, kind of thing, right? So
yeah, a lot of it was triggered by some of the stuff that happened in New York, and seeing that hey, what are we doing for ours that die in the line of duty, and three individuals really got together and put it all together and founded it all, and it's grown ever since to a very active board. We're representing as much of a diverse population as we can in Canada. We have a military rep, and we have the First Nations representation on the board. We have a family representation on the board. We have members from all across the province. So it's not just all across the country, I should say. So it's not just one location. It's people that have got together. It's tried to be as open and as diverse as possible to make it to meet what the requirements are of different regions.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah, like I said, such an important service and way to honor those fallen for sure. So kudos to all the work you did. I know you've been a huge player in it and an ambassador still to this day. So big thanks to you for putting in that effort in that time.
Thank you. It's something that really sat in my heart, and I've been pretty dedicated with it. And even though I've stepped down from being a board member, I'm still involved with fundraising in some aspect or another with it, and the ceremony itself. So very much appreciate being able to continue being a part of it. So
yeah, for sure.
And some of the people that I've met through it have just been amazing as well. The other firefighters from across the country, and seeing some of the issues that develop with some of the other, across the country as well. And, being made aware of the needs, especially the mental health aspect, and seeing what's driven that towards it as well. So.
So you mentioned just recently retiring from that, but you also in the beginning you talked about retiring a couple times. So currently, what's your situation?
Well, I'm still active on the Anarchist Mountain Fire Department. More of a administrative and training and response. I'll go to major incidents, and smaller ones probably not so much anymore. But actually today I've been working all morning on updating a alternative fuel vehicle course. And I'll be teaching that tonight. So,
oh yeah, oh good.
There's always something going on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, your expertise is probably well wanted.
Yeah.
So I think in our original conversations you said you've retired 3 or so times. Tried to retire 3 or so times.
Yeah, several times. Yeah.
So I'd love to dig into this.
I did retire as a career guy and thought that was going to be the end of it right then and there.
Yep.
And I'm not one for just sitting around and doing nothing. And you can only play so much golf, right? So
especially in the winter.
Well, yeah, here that's right. So and then when my game plan was to retire in the Okanagan, where it's usually nights and warm, and moved here, and within a couple of weeks went to a parade and saw all the fire trucks coming down the hill, and sure enough, there was one of our department's old trucks in there. And you never know where they go after they're sold, because they just go off for auction.
Yeah.
So I had a bit of a chuckle seeing that. I talking to guys, and they had just put it in service and had a few things they couldn't figure out on it. Mm-hmm. So inevitably, I was invited up to come and show them how the truck worked, and came home with a uniform. So I was right back at it again. So, but I thought I'd try retirement again from that last year, but that didn't last. As soon as the wildland stuff came up and a few other things, I ended up going right back at it again. So,
well, you're not alone.
In a wildland deployment and so on.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. I think a lot of people in the fire service struggle retiring, right? That's a tough one. So dig into that a little deeper of kind of what were some of those struggles and maybe some of the things you did to.
Yeah, it is hard. It's like, I'm coming up on finishing, I'm in my 40th year in the fire service now.
Wow, it's amazing.
And that's, you don't see that too often really. And I still find, one day I'm just going to have to say that's enough. I can't do this anymore, but that's a hard decision. It's like I always, in a lot of the conferences and stuff that I've gone to, I've been asked the question, what's the toughest thing about being a firefighter? And my answer was always, it'd be the day I can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the toughest thing. And, that day's coming, I'm getting old, older anyway. So
Yes,
it's, it's time to look at that. But that's why I've tried to, scale back what I'm doing and still be of benefit and, using what I know to be able to help the department and stay with it and stay a part of it. But, time's coming, it's coming. And, it's, I've been pretty fortunate to be able to, put some programs together that have now, taken some international scope and, traveled all across the country to conferences and spoken on things regarding traumatic incident responses. And, that's something I never ever thought would be happening as a firefighter. And, so there's so many just different avenues that you take and you branch out on, and just so, honored and humbled to be part of so many of these, at these conferences and so on. It's just amazing.
So when you finally hang up your helmet, what are you going to miss the most, do you think?
Well, a lot of it is the camaraderie and the brotherhood and stuff like that. And, you're just sitting around talking to the guys. Fortunately, over the years, I have a pretty good base of friends and stuff, even from, back from in Victoria still and all across the country. I mean, I've made, some really close friends with firefighters as far away as Halifax and so on. And, we've been to each other's houses from either side of the country. We've visited, we've got together. And I think that part will still carry on, because, they're at that point where they're getting ready to retire all too. So some of them, and, we still talk about things and we still follow stuff. And it's always nice to follow what new comes out. We're seeing electric fire engines now. We thought of that, right?
Totally.
So there's so many different things that, you never know what's going to come around the corner. Right. So there may be a need for some things down the road. And if there isn't, well, I can still go to the parade every year. Right.
Yep, definitely.
There's always that. So, yeah. So
it's any things you would share with maybe people who are listening or, basically in their 20, 25, 30, 35 year service. And they're like, I don't know how I can possibly do this. How can I leave the fire service?
Yeah. That's all you can do is you can give it all you've got, take it seriously, have fun with it. If you can't do this and have fun with it, it's not worth doing. You can't, you have to be able to get up and go to work and look forward to it. Right. And you never know. It's, just when you think you've seen the stupidest thing that's ever going to happen, another day comes along and you got to go to that call. And it's, that's part of the fun of going to work every day and going, what are we going to get today? There's always the training and there's always the meals around the table and stuff like that. And it becomes a family. It really does, where the guys get together, and not just the guys, but their spouses, and a lot of times their kids involved as well. And, camping trips and so on. And, you've got to be a part of that. You've got to have fun with that. And, you've got to enjoy it. And, just realize that, you're in one of the few jobs that you can go anywhere in the world and walk into a fire station and say, hey, I'm a firefighter. And the next thing you know, you got a place to stay and dinner. I've slept in some fire stations in other cities myself. So it's one of those things, right? There's not too many jobs that you can do that. And so that's one thing that you have to be, you got to recognize when you become a firefighter, is that it's not just, you're not just going into your station to look after your area. You're representing a career, right? You're representing quite a brotherhood. Yeah. And, you can look outside, for answers to anything, really. There's things aren't quite going the way you think they should at your hall. You ask questions around other halls and say, how do you guys do this? Maybe there is a better, maybe they might look at you and go, hey, I wish we were doing it your way. You never know. Right. So it's one of those things, you can be a part of it. Or, there's just going to be that time where, you have to realize you have to slow down it's like when you first start, you're on the nozzle, you're rushing in first on everything. And, the other old guys, they're in the back, they're running the truck and they're sitting back and just waiting directions. Right. So there was a time where, you got to start sliding back down the hose and let the young guys come forward and do their job. And when you can stand there and mentor them and help them, be better at what they're doing, you still be able to take pride in what you do. I've been fortunate enough to be mentors for a few people that have gone on to careers.
It's a good feeling.
It's nice to see them, it's nice to see when they turn around and say thank you as well, when they realize what they've done, what you do for them.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing.
It sure is. Sure is. When I retired premature, like I definitely didn't want to retire at the age I did. This podcast, my book, my workshops have all been able for me to be able to still stay pretty connected in the fire service, maybe even more than I was.
Well, exactly.
I think that's a nice kind of stepping stone to full retirement.
That's right. It's not just about dragging a hose to a fire. There's more to it. There's this, like in your podcast has become very educational for a lot of people. Right. And, you're not pulling a hose with it. You're not climbing a ladder. You're not going to fall off the truck or anything, but, you're still being a very big part of it and being able to get that word out. So that's, one of the most amazing things. I've had that experience myself with the traumatic incident response tracking. I was fortunate enough to take the time out to listen to some people that were going through, post-traumatic stress in the fire service and wondering, what could be done to make it easier for maybe not so much them, but for other people down the road that were going to be, involved in some traumatic incidents, and what would make it easier to come forward and ask for help and document it. And that's how that system started. And, I've had calls from as far away as Australia about it. How does this work and how do you implement it? And, I know you've had, podcast members on here in the past that have actually called me and worked with implementing it in their area. And that's, in New Jersey. So it's, not something you ever expect, right? So recently just talked with some members in Oklahoma about it as well. So there's always, this is coming back from an article I wrote almost, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, maybe almost 10 years ago now. And it still pops up every now and then on a search, and people contact me and still ask for copies of the forms and how to implement it and go over how it works. And, it's been nice to be able to I've been to almost every Chiefs conference in the country talking about it. So a lot of them have implemented it. It's good.
So let's dive into that. What was the birth of that? How did that all start? Was there something that you were experiencing, or just?
Well, it started with meeting, some individuals that were going through it, and I sat down with one in Ottawa after during the Fallen Firefighters Foundation Memorial Weekend, and sat down and he's noticed that this person, I'd known them for a couple of years now from various returning to the ceremony every year, and just noticed there was some different behaviors. So sat down and talked with them for a while, and the next thing we were, I was told that from that individual that they were diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and at that time I really didn't know what that meant, other than what you hear on the news, and a lot of people were struggling with it and may commit suicide from it. So I was kind of torn at that point. Do I ask about it, or do I just go, okay, and nod my head like probably everybody else did? And he said, you know what, I can tell this person wants to talk. I'm going to ask him about it. 4 hours later, I had quite the education of it. And what came about then was continuing just to discuss it with that person as to, what would have made it easier to come forward, because that was one thing they had mentioned, that it was very hard to come forward and report it because of the stigma involved. And would there be an easier way, and how to keep documented evidence as to the calls that create these issues and so on, because at that point in time, a lot of workers' compensation boards across the country were not really looking at it as a work-related illness and putting more stress on the person coming forward by trying to get them to try, what was the cause that caused this, and so on. And now, somebody that's already under stress from it originally is now starting to, get stressed out even more, trying to remember everything and put through it. And, we decided that maybe we should start treating this, almost the same way we're treating any other exposure. We have smoke exposure, there's documentation. You have, you're exposed to asbestos on a senior's documentation. It's all recorded, but when nobody was ever tracking traumatic exposures, and it's not necessarily everybody on the call that finds it traumatic, but there may be an individual that finds it traumatic for some reason or another. And there had to be a way for them to be able to keep track of this and report it and make it easier to get help. So much easier to tick a box on a form that says, I'd like to speak with somebody, and turn that in, as opposed to coming forward and, getting the stamina to go in and talk to the chief or whoever and say, hey, I need help with this, knowing that there's a bit of a stigma. So once departments started implementing this tracking procedure, it made it easier for an individual to come forward and ask, or to simply just keep track of the records for themselves if they wanted to, in case it became, cumulative down the road. And now they come forward and they're asked to try and remember all the calls. They've got the documentation, they've kept themselves, they've written down what the incident numbers were, what the reasoning was, who it was. And, so it became a very simple checkbox form with a section for them to add their own personal notes. Checkboxes were basically, based on, the most common things that caused it to be a traumatic incident response, like fatalities or involving someone, or involving calls involving children that are hard, because that's always the first one that get those calls. It's your blood pressure goes to the roof before you're even out the door. Right. So, there's so many different reasons for it. So, and then that grew into, getting it out to a couple departments to try it, and basically having them, experience it being used almost at the very first call that they had once they had it in play, and that it was working for them. So, going on to the conference level and talking about it, next thing you know, it's spreading around in various different ways. Every department seemed to have a different way to try and implement it, but the base reasoning was there. And the main thing was to be able to allow somebody to keep track of it, and to make it easier for them to come forward if they needed that. And knowing that they were just ticking a box, and now somebody was going to come to them and offer help. That's so much easier than trying to struggle to come in and ask for it, not knowing whether you're going to get it or not. It's not knowing what your response is going to be. So once a department has implemented it, it's basically everybody's aware of it, and they know what the routine is going to be afterwards. And so it's not like they're coming in and guessing, is somebody going to help me or not? They know they're going to get help now once it's in place. And,
do you have any case studies of people who have actually used this to use for a claim for WorkSafe or for injury?
I can't give out any personal ones.
No, for sure.
But there are some that have used it and have kept the documentation. Have used it immediately right thereafter, and there are some that have used it in a just kept track of the records for a cumulative purpose.
Right.
We all know that a lot of incidents, they may be stressful at the time, and you may come back to the station and find that was really stressful, and you fill your form out and everything, and then a couple of weeks later everything's fine. Things go away. They don't always become a continuing disorder. So once those are the forms that you leave sitting in your locker and keep in your own personal files without having to turn in, and that maintains the privacy issue for yourself and that. And but there is ones that I'm aware of that have contacted me and said, thank you, because this has worked. It's helped a lot. And, and there's also been departments that have contacted me and said, this is, we haven't had anybody use it yet, but we've had a very, very positive, look at this and a positive outlook for the future of being able to use this, that this is something that's there that wasn't there before. And it's just like any other help that's out there. It's something that's there that they can use if they need it. So that's good.
Is it one page per incident, or is it like a list that you'd have?
It's basically, I've tried to make it into a single page. You get too long, it makes it
a single page per incident, or
one page per incident.
Okay,
Yeah, you
gotcha.
can, and it's it's basically you fill in your name and you fill in your the date, what type of call it was, whether it was an MVI or whether it was a drowning or first responder call or something like that. They can indicate what that was. That's basically. And then if they have access to it, it's good to have the incident number that they can get on there. There's always a way to get the incident number. And then there's a number of checklist questions on it, such as, did this involve children? Was it a fatality? At any time, did you fear for your own life or those around you, and so on? And then there's a section at the bottom where they can indicate if there's anything, extenuating that you want to indicate. You can fill out the comments box and date it, and just there's the check box at the bottom that says, would you like to talk with somebody, to talk with? And that's usually used if they're going to turn it in. They're not necessarily picking that if they're just going to put it in their locker. And then if they did turn it in, we came up with a second form that was sort of a verification form for it, to whoever they're turning it into would basically contact the IC on that particular call. And here's a quick form for you to fill out. Did you notice, what did you notice? Who was on the call? And so on, just so they can keep them correlated together, because there may be one person that's come forward about it, but there may be one or two others on it that haven't said a thing. And, maybe it wasn't a call that normally was requiring a CISM briefing at the end, because it might have been a minor call, but it may have been just one or two people that were put in a situation that found it traumatic, and so in the whole overall picture of the call, maybe not necessarily traumatic. It could very well have been because one person knew the person that was involved with the incident at the call, and adds a little bit more stress to them, operating that call where others don't. You see that far more often in small towns, small areas, where it's far more likely when you're going to a call, you're going to know everybody that's involved. You're going to know somebody on the crew is going to know somebody that it's his house or that's their car, and not recognize that car and the accident and so on. So, it doesn't happen quite as often in a major city, but it does happen very often in the smaller towns. So
yes, definitely.
These are times when, where it may have been a minor incident and not really considered to be something that we're going to call in the CISM team for, but one or two people may be looking for some help afterwards.
Yep. Yep. Definitely in a small community, you can bump into a lot of people, and car crashes and medical calls and house fires. Yeah. It's a different beast for sure.
Yep. Changes your whole outlook on how the call went. Right. So you can have a debriefing afterwards, and a lot of times, nobody's wanting to step up and say, yeah, I had a hard time with it. There's still that stigma. That stigma is still there that, if I come forward and say, hey, I didn't like that, or I didn't like how this happened, or all right, I'm really feeling a hard time about it, and nobody else is, maybe I shouldn't say anything because nobody else is saying anything either. Right. So it makes it hard. So this is just another way of getting around that stigma.
Love it. Love it. I'm a big proponent and fan, I guess you could say, of kind of, not eliminating, but trying to work our best towards organizational stress.
Yes.
Because I think that's a huge area that we battle with every single day outside of the trauma. just the organizational political stress. Could this tool be used for documenting that, or is that not a good fit?
I think you could adapt to that quite easily. It's you might have to take out some of the questions and put in some other check boxes for it, but the whole basis of it is to make it easier to come forward for assistance. And that's so, if you think that would fit into occupational, like as an organizational thing, not sure who you would be coming forward to in that aspect to gain assistance from, whether it's something else to go up the ladder for, or it's, even if it's for keeping track of your own personal records. So, hey, every time this one item comes up, I'm having a hard time getting it organized.
Yeah.
Maybe you can start looking towards, building solutions for something that seems to become a repetitive problem where, you might not think it's repetitive unless you review your documents.
100%.
Right? So, yeah.
Interesting. What do you think is the most successful part of it? Like, because it's so simple, it's a one pager. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think what's made it the most successful part is the ease that it is put on the person that's trying to come forward.
Yeah.
And that's taken, and anything you can do to reduce that stress right off the bat. And anytime you got to walk into the chief's office and talk to him about something, there's usually some stress involved in there right off the bat. Right. So, if you can do it this way, that was the key thing, was to reduce the stress and make it easier on the individuals. And this is where I say where there's been some challenges in getting this implemented into different departments, because there's been, the managements in some of these departments have found it to be a great idea, but they want to implement it in a way it works for them. And that doesn't necessarily work for the person that's trying to report it. So this is one of those things where, it's a program that has to be addressed in a way that it helps the individual that needs it, not the individual that needs to manage it. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yep.
Yep. So,
Great.
they can do what they need to after it comes forward, but the ease has to be there for that person to be able to do it and report it. And that's one reason it's always been paper-based rather than put on online, just because it's their privacy for the person to do it and not have to worry about logging into something and it being tracked. So,
right. Yeah, for sure. How can people learn more about this, or where could they get copies of this to?
They can email me directly if they want.
Okay.
I'll, my email address is wayne.jasper@icloud.com.
Okay.
You can do a search on Google, and I think if you go to I think it's Canadian Firefighter magazine, you'll search that, you'll find the article I wrote about it, and my contact info is in there as well. They were very good, very big advocate of seeing this happen, and it's gone a big way to promote it as well. So,
Great.
And send me an email. I'll be happy to shoot you some blank copies of the forms and go over sample ways to implement it on your department, and
Awesome.
go from there.
Yeah, I'll make sure that's in the show notes as well, if we can attach that somehow. And
Yep,
I'll make sure your email's in there as well. So
quite happy to.
Great.
Quite happy to help. I'd say it's just one of those things that even in being retired somewhat, that I still get emails about it, and I'll continue to answer them for who knows how long. So,
awesome.
Hopefully this is something that'll stick around for a while, and as it becomes more and more used, it gets improved on how it's implemented. Just like anything in the beginning, there's always some hiccups and questions as to, well, what if this happens, or what do we do with this? And somebody finds a solution, and it gets blended in there.
Love it.
It works even better.
Great. So I'd love 40 years, you said, in the fire service.
Yeah.
I'd love to dig into what do you do for yourself to kind of last for 40 years? What have you done in your own self-care, your own wellness to stay active?
I've got a great family. I got great kids that loved everything we've been able to do. We've been able to get away a lot, and a lot of vacations, and when they were needed. Like to travel, like to get away, see different things. I'm a bit of a workaholic, so like to work at part-time jobs on the side as well, doing things as well.
Yeah.
So that keeps me going. I've got, great support from my wife, and, she looks after me pretty well. So that's good. Keeps me somewhat in line. So,
Yes, 100%.
can't get away with everything. So that's, good. But, it's different things at different times. I don't think you can pick one thing that is the way to do this. To get by with things, you've got to do what works at that time. And if it means taking a day to go golfing with a couple of guys, or to go golfing by yourself and ended up being paired with people you don't even know, and just hearing some stories about the other side of the world, do it. I'm not just saying golfing, but you can go fishing, you can go, you go hiking, there's so many different things you can do. But you've got to do something. You've got to have an active mind. You can't sit. There's got to be something involved. And even, I find even if I'm sitting watching TV, I'm planning a building of some sort in my head, trying to design something in my head that'll work on a pro. So there's always that. I had my own business going for the longest time when I first started in the fire service, doing computer work, and
Oh, do you?
from networking to websites to computers, and had clients all over. The farthest away client was Metz Apparatus in Germany.
Oh, wow.
That I did their initial website for them when they went online. So lots of different things to do. So, but that was just, even that got too much. And it's good. You just have to do something. So I don't think there's a single one trick to do it. And you also have to know that, hey, today's the day I got to take and slow down. Today's the day I'm not doing anything. Today's that day that I'm going to sit in the hot tub and relax and have a scotch and just take it easy. It's not always the day that, you've got to do something. There has to be those days, and you have to recognize it.
Yeah. Those days are so important.
Yep.
So this is a new question I'm asking in season 2 is, what does Chief Jasper need in his life to support him in the next year?
Oh, got to have that lottery ticket. No, I just, I'd just like to see some new things. I always like to go new places, see places that I haven't been. And even if they're close by, I mean, this past year, I finally got to go to Leavenworth, Washington, and see all the lights. And I've been there 3 times in the past year now, for Christmas and the summer and everything. It was just, but it was something new that I've always wanted to do, and gone and done that. It's close. I was only 2.5 hours away. So, you think it was something I would have done many times, but I've never done it. I got a lot of places that I've been that I want to go back to, and go and see them again. That's one of the disadvantages of doing conferences is you're there for a couple of days and you're kind of tied down with what's going on. And then as you're getting ready to leave, somebody says, well, did you go see this? Or did you go see that? Oh, you missed everything. It's like, well, yeah, when was I going to go do that?
Yep.
So,
I saw the
so
hotel.
those are the times that you want to go back and do it again. I've been back to PEI a couple of times and just loved it there. The East Coast, I've been, several times, and I want to get back up to Yukon, see that again, and see things that I didn't get a chance to see that just didn't have time when I was there. So there's so many things that I'd like to do. But travel's the number one.
Awesome. And it's good for the soul.
Yeah.
For the soul.
Yep. I got a new cat too, and he keeps me busy. So.
I noticed he hasn't jumped in the screen yet. So
no, he's being spoiled by somebody else right now. So he's off there getting something. he's only a kitten still, but he's almost 20 pounds, and he's just
Yes.
huge. He's a big ragdoll,
Yeah.
Siamese flame point, and it's just full of mischief right now. So it's keeping me busy.
Yes, that's good. I got a dog puppy. Well, he's 4,
Yeah,
almost 5, and he's still a puppy for sure.
yeah. No, it's well, I've always had cats, so he's a replacement for one that our last one that
Mm.
was gone. We took some time off, did some traveling while we could, and now he's
Yep.
here. So
Yes.
it kind of limits where we can go without having a babysitter for him. But
Yep. Got
but
that right.
we got more people that have seen him, the more people want to look after him. So it's
Mhm.
good.
That's cool.
Makes it easier for us. So
So, Chief, what would be your final kind of message to our listeners that you kind of want our
you know,
listeners to walk away with today and go, wow,
I think is keep an open mind on and reach out to people everywhere, and not just in this profession, but in other careers. Learn as much as you can. Reach out. I mean, there's some amazing people in the fire service that have really stood out, and been really fortunate enough, for me to get to know so many of them that many people will never have that opportunity if you're not out there and involved and at these conferences and doing stuff, which isn't easy for people to attend. But all these people all have, they have their podcasts, they have their online groups where they're doing stuff. There's Les Carplock. He's a fantastic leadership guy. Or Schreiner and Comox, another great mentor and great chief in the fire service here in Canada. I've had the opportunity to meet some of them up in Slave Lake and so on. And that's the thing. Reach out to these people. Don't just read their podcasts. Ask them questions. Ask me questions. I might not always have an answer, but I'll at least try and find it for you if I don't know it. So that's the main thing. I think that's what you got to do. You got to, for somebody new coming in, realize that you're not just a firefighter at that station. You're in a brotherhood around the world.
something much bigger.
Yeah, and there's answers there, and there's help with almost anything that you can think of. So reach out for it. Don't be afraid to come out. Don't be afraid to come up with a new idea. You'll get shot down at work about it for sure. Until somebody tries it and finds out it works, and then
Yes.
and then they'll take credit for it.
I have a sense there's a story behind this.
Yeah, it goes from there. So yeah, but that's
So-
it. Just don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to put new ideas forward. And if it's something that you're not sure of, take the time to research. Do your research and ask questions about things.
Totally.
See what's out there.
Love it.
That's really what somebody needs to do. Because
Yeah.
even I'm in, like you say, I'm in my 40th year right now, and I'm still taking course. We still take the odd course for things, and certifications.
Keeps the mind sharp.
So, yeah, and rules keep changing, so you got to be able to stay on top of them too, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
Good.
So you open up a can of worms there with asking questions. So I'm going to throw back to you. Do you have a question for me?
yeah, what made you go this route rather than to just sit back and take it easy? I know. I mean, I know some of your stories, and I know some of the struggles, and I know that a lot of this is a healing. But how much are you enjoying this now as opposed to being on the floor?
Honestly, more. Honestly,
Yeah.
I miss the firefighters, the people. I miss that aspect, but I think the podcast and the workshops and keynotes and all that stuff is still allowing me to see those people.
Yes.
Maybe not on an everyday basis, but yeah, when I first kind of took my leave and I was like, wasn't quite sure if I was going back to the fire service active or not. It was 2 options: either leave Salt Spring, my dream home, my dream location where I grew up, to go somewhere else and be a fire chief, or try to do something for the fire service where I could stay home and stay at my
Yeah.
house, stay at my dream location that I could never replace.
Yep.
And so it was an easy discussion with myself, but came to the conclusion that I can do a lot of change and I can still make an impact in the fire service by staying here and doing something totally different. And I truly feel that kind of found my purpose uh, in the fire service, in leadership, mental health. I kind of found, oh, this is maybe where I
Yep.
was supposed to be. Right. So I love having connections. Like, how often do I get a chance to sit down and talk to somebody for an hour
Yeah.
about something? That's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Maybe
No,
your
I agree with
closest
that.
friends, maybe your closest
Yep.
friends, but
Yep.
your colleagues from across the world. Not very often you get a chance to sit there, right? And you get a chance to meet people that are authors and podcasters. That I was like, well, they probably wouldn't give me the time of day because they got busy lives. But now with the podcast, it gives that avenue for them to connect with me and me to connect
Yeah.
with them. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned about that, sitting down and talking with friends. And I sat back and I looked at it at one time and I thought, you know what, I'm seeing people that I know from across the country more often than friends that are local. I get that, maybe I'm not, maybe have a beer with them once a year or something like that. I'm getting together with people from, Saskatchewan and Halifax and wherever and different conferences and we're all at these conferences. So we're seeing each other more than we see our local friends. And it's really nice to see that aspect and to be able to sit down and tell the stories of, what's happened since the last time I saw you type thing. It's, I think I will miss that part more than anything when I step back from it. So
Yeah,
rather
100%.
than floor stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love going to fires. I love being in command, but yeah, it's just a different lifestyle, different pace. And I still feel like I'm making a difference versus just retiring and working somewhere else. I would feel a bit of a gap for sure. So I think that
Well,
would
I think
help
you are.
me.
I think
Yeah.
you've done a great job with your podcast and, it's just different. It's a different, avenue that you've taken to do it.
Mm.
Most people haven't. And, it's been good. It's just another door of information for people and,
Yeah.
has worked out
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Stepped out of my comfort zone, never done a podcast in my life. And
Yeah.
so stepped out of my comfort zone to kind of
Well, you see, I don't have my lighting and I don't write and I don't have my makeup on or anything.
Yeah.
So
no makeup today. No. I think I got the heat cranked a little too high though.
yeah, there you go.
Well, Chief, it's been a pleasure. As always, we every time we connect, we always have a little conversation, and usually it's at a trade show or at a conference. But hopefully, we can connect and see you in person again in the future. And I'm still going to conferences, and
Yeah.
I'm booked till June going to conferences. So
Good. I haven't put in for any for a while, so we'll wait and see. Maybe somebody will start calling me again after
yeah,
this.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
who knows?
Well, Chief,
All
it's been a pleasure, and thanks for listening, everyone. Until next time, stay well.
Great. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for tuning in to Beneath the Helmet. We hope that this podcast has provided you with valuable insights into the world of firefighters' health and wellness. Remember, caring for your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is crucial to achieving optimal performance. Join us next time on Beneath the Helmet for more inspiring conversations. Until then, stay well.